Right, thank you. Rob. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Now, I welcome Mr. Steve Corcoran. So, Steve, just tell us who you are and in what capacity you appear, please.
Thank you, Senator Stoll. My name is Stephen Corcoran and I'm a subject matter expert.
Okie dokie. Now, Steve, I'll get the opportunity to make a opening statement before we go to questions.
Thank you, Senator Stoll. First of all, this presentation of mine will be done in recognition of the 4 children of James McLeod. They were killed in a murder-suicide by truck in May 2019 in Kingaroy. The children were Ali 6, Matilda 5, Wyatt 4 and Zadok 2. You will be able to see from my written submission number 14 on the Senate website and from my 147-page accompanying published document submission that I would like to table and also given all of you a copy. Senator McDonald, if you would like a copy, happy to have one here for you. Excuse me. I've been a truckie for 26 years, completing over 4 million kilometres. I'm a trade qualified mechanical engineer and I have been since 1995. I've got a Cert 2 in Applied Fatigue Management Strategies, which I held since 2008, which allows me to work for more than 12 hours a day. I'm also an independent journalist and I have a history writing for Truck and Life magazine, doing the Rig of the Month for a long time, and also contributed to the Big Rigs National Road Transport newspaper, which was ended from News Corp, but from last night I heard that it's coming back.
Well,
it's been acquired by someone else, so that's some good news.
Good.
I've been a road safety advocate since 2012, even though I survived the crash on the front of the booklet I've provided in 1999. I was the author and principal petitioner to the petition to recognise deaths in the transport industry, which was tabled in the House of Representatives in 2013. On Friday, April 12th, 2013, I gave evidence much like today to the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Petitions to support the petition to recognise deaths in the transport industry. That drivers should be entitled to a danger money allowance in recognition of the death rate. Both the Transport Minister, now Opposition Leader Anthony Albanese, and Workplace Relations Minister Bill Shorten both responded in writing. These responses will be found in my 147 pages. Those letters sent me to the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal. I applied for a road safety order for free. My application was listed RSRA 2013/5. During that time, I had a supporting network of drivers through social media on a Facebook platform called Danger Money that still holds what information the government has not destroyed after the 2016 repeal. After attending the tribunal's mentions, hearings and conferences, I was part of making Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1 in 2014. This order was implemented and taken up by industry and drove down the death rate. You can just look at the graphs from that time. The Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1 gave me whistleblower protections. It also gave me a driver contract setting out my rights and responsibilities under the law. It also made sure that my employer had a mandatory drug and alcohol policy in place. And despite the Australian Trucking Association, Nat Road and all the other propagandists, we no longer have these protections, or I no longer have these protections. And most disconcerting of all is the fact that 30-day minimum payments to contractors was mandatory and legislated in Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1. So anyone that comes in here and asks for 30 days protection that was part of getting rid of it is a defunct propagandist and a gaslighter. As well as providing drivers and companies a paper trail for chain of responsibility and compliance, safe driving plans took 7 years to introduce and were part of Road Safety Remuneration Order number 1. In 2014, after going through the process and seeing how it was, I applied for a second road safety remuneration order titled RSRA 2014/1. This is where I set out protections from wage theft and secured guarantees of entitlements, such as a portable long service system, superannuation on all hours worked, leave-in titles also calculated on all hours of work. While I was doing that, attending the hearings, mentions and conferences in 2014, 2015 and 2016, including work on the Road Safety Remuneration Order number 2, I worked on the rates calculator with industry representative that sat on the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal, Tim Squires, and his rates calculator. There was a public discussion about the draft orders, and you will also see in my 147 pages where what I supplied to the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunals, what I wanted in that draft order. It was open to everyone in Australia to put in their own opinion. Now, whatever corruption and criminality brought about the killing of the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal and the repeal of the Road Safety Act in 13 days after a High Court challenge, I'll refer to the 63-page inquiry into the effect of the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal payment order on Australian small business by the government's Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman report. You will find not one word from an applicant or anyone who was there, except corporate lawyers who wanted it gone to prop up their transport cartels. In April 2019, I buried all my paperwork and supporting documents with a 30-tonne excavator when the 7 News channel accidentally let the real number of dead truck drivers out. 575 since the repeal in April 2016, which included 27 truck drivers killed for the month of March 2019. I wasn't going to get involved in this again because my mental health declines with each death and destruction of my friends. But when you stuck this inquiry through, Senator Sterle, and then my friend Dane Ballinger, an owner-driver, was killed on a brand new bit of road, on a brand new truck, something broke in me. He had signed my petition to recognise deaths in the transport industry, and he is now dead. So I've sent my email submission and I started my podcast, Transport Inquiry Podcast, because the only failure of the RSRT is that the narrative was spoken by corporate and changed from safety first to status quo. There is thousands of followers on my Facebook and listening now, and the evidence of all the previous witness evidence given to this committee is available on YouTube for everyone to listen to. Before I answer any questions, I would like to make it perfectly clear. I've spoke with thousands of drivers and morale is non-existent. The industry is a tapeworm that used to feed off the host but now is just a crime syndicate. The human rights report into the outcomes of the repeal, and since I have started this journey since the first hearing in November last year, I've uncovered drivers working 30 days without a day off. Also, since coronavirus suspended the last hearing in March, we had an 8-year-old girl ran over by a Boral B-double tanker at Campbelltown. 4 police officers ran down in Melbourne. That's the industry, and anyone who comes in here and tells you that their patch is 100% is lying. Gaslighting, feckless propagandists of the highest order. 3 truck drivers dead in the first 10 days of this year, and 35 dead so far. And now, it's time for my solutions. We need an Australian Federal Motor Carriers Safety Act, and it needs to endorse the Australian Federal Motor Carriers Safety Authority. This needs to make sure that the road is compliant and accredited because the road network currently is not accredited and not up to standard. There's over 2,000 parking bays missing for drivers to combat fatigue, which makes it impossible for them to combat fatigue legally. We need to accredit the companies to work on this accredited network. And you need to accredit their machinery to work under the accreditation of the company, to work under the accreditation of the road. Then you need to accreditate the driver to have a commercial license that can be endorsed and disendorsed to do commercial work. A regular person should be able to go and hire a truck and move house for free. No worries, go and do it yourself. You shouldn't need a commercial license. Where these truck parking bays need to be built is where these crashes are happening. We don't need a feasibility study. Where the trucks crash is where they need to have a parking bay to stop. They need to be named after the drivers we've lost. Danger money and portable long service leave are just ideas. But before and during the repeal, a non-profit organisation funded by the TW partly, doxed me, releasing my information, encouraged people to call my employer and have me sacked for being part of the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal and during the upheaval at the end. The TW have helped me because once I was sacked from being doxed, they helped me get compensation because I was discriminated against for applying to the tribunal. So the union are not feckless, but they are missing strong leadership, and I personally don't like that they won't take industrial action over these deaths. Another basic requirement is sleeper berths. You'll see in my 13-page submission on number 14 that I've included the entirety. It's page 150 of my book. You will find the entirety of sleeper berth legislation. It is just over 1 page. The minimum requirements is a 0.6 cubic metre sleeping area that it's not mandatory to have air conditioning except in the great state of Western Australia above the 26th parallel between October and March. Everyone else in every other state doesn't get hot and can just sleep. So those things are what I believe are most important. I've also got other recommendations in my 13-page submission. I have to read one thing that I've come across. I'm going to take advantage of my parliamentary privilege right now. I'm going to read a contractor's agreement that I had sent to me, that I've sent to the committee. And it says at 5.11, the independent contractor is not and cannot be deemed to be an agent, employee, partner, joint venture, or otherwise associated with the hirer. 5.2, entitlements. Hence, the contractor acknowledges and agrees that 5.21 is no way entitled to any employee entitlements in brackets or similar entitlements, close brackets, whatsoever. 5.22, it is responsible for such entitlements in respect to its own servants, agents, contractors, employees. Also, 5.23, hereby indemnifies the hirer from and against any loss or damage the hirer may suffer in respect of such entitlements, whether directly or indirectly, or whether relatively to the contractor and or its servants, agents, contractors or employees. Now, the contractor's acknowledgement, duties and obligations says that 6.11 will carry out the service in a competent work-like manner at such times and such places as the hire may reasonably require in accordance with any applicable laws, regulations, bylaws, codes, notify the hire as soon as possible and all that kind of stuff. Then you go to the final page and you look at the rates. Actually, I'll go to the final page of it where it says, first of all, there's a $30 a week admin fee. The guaranteed minimum hours of work is 0. And you pay $30 a shirt, all right? Now, for a semi-trailer hire, this is where the contractor supplies the driver, the truck, the trailer, the fuel, the tolls, the insurance, the registration, all of the costs. minimum hourly rate of $55 per hour, excluding GST, for semi-trailers carrying up to 24 pallets.
So, sorry, Steve, this is a full rigger.
Yes, for a full trailer, 20 to 24 pallets, carrying up to 24 pallets, 55 an hour. So you're paying the man, the driver, the fuel, the truck, the trailer, and all of the running costs on 55 an hour. The minimum hourly rate of $42 but between 15 and 16 pallets. $38.50 for 13 to 14 pallets, $34 for 11 pallets, $31 for 9 pallets, $22 for 2 pallets.
Steve?
Now,
I've got to ask, what are the costs? Where do these come from?
This is
for what?
this company, this is a Australian registered proprietary limited company that engages, it has no trucks of its own, engages 120 contractors under this arrangement. And they subcontract to Star Trek.
I'll give you the company names in a minute.
Okay, thanks.
I know who they are.
Now, I cannot compete. I cannot buy a machine and work and fuel and rego and maintain a professional operation on that rate. It's impossible, it's criminal. Anyone that's doing it is breaking the law somehow, or they have a percentage of that company and they're funding it from another source. They've got another source of
Steve,
payment.
just let's peel this one back a bit for those senators that aren't from the trucking industry. So what you clearly, and I know the company because I've got the copy on my desk that's provided
Happy
by.
to send it to anyone that wants.
Yeah.
Who's it, Star?
They subcontract to Star Trek,
Yeah.
Australia Post.
Oh, there's a list of.
So hang on, let's just come back to this. Let's not, Steve.
Yep.
Let's not miss this opportunity
That's right.
here to explain.
Yep.
So that contract, I didn't realise it was full rig. I thought it was haulier, just providing the prime mover, which is bad enough.
Yeah.
So they get paid $55 an hour to take a bogey drive.
Yep.
If they carry 24 pallets.
That's right.
But if this bogey drive prime mover's only carrying up to 18 pallets, I don't have it in front of me, it's on my desk in Canberra, they get $42.
16 pallets is $42. And that's only for the hours that it's on the truck. Also in the contract, it has different things in there where if it's easy for them to send a smaller truck out and take the load off you, they will. So that the hourly rate, you only pay the hourly rate that the freight is on the truck. If you have you get 16 pallets with the truck, you're looking at $42, but they might send out the 16 pallet truck, which is on a different rate, on a cheaper rate.
So I hope that explains just how bad and how, I'll say the word, how corruptible this contract
Criminal.
is. So, okay, thanks, Steve. Keep going.
So I don't mean to correct you, Senator Hanson, about the road safety remuneration order rates. The second road safety remuneration order concerning rates that was published in 2015 as a draft order, first of all, Tim Squires, who was the industry representative that sat on the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal, created a rate calculator and brought it to the hearing, to the mentions and conferences, and we shopped it and everyone agreed. And then he took it around the industry and he had conferences, I believe it was 8 or 9 days of conferences showing around the industry this rate calculator and got an agreement. And it was only when we went back in front of the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal president that the supply chain, Woolworths and Coles and the Australian Logistics Council barristers stood up and said, no, we don't agree with those costs. So then it went into 2 years of factors and inputs into this rate calculator. And so at the end, there was the minimum rate, which was a calculator set for loads to go over 500 kilometres and only in the long distance sector of the general freight, because the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal, like the livestock sector, is going to be here this afternoon, and the very first thing the Road Safety Remuneration Tribunal looked into was the livestock sector. They held an inquiry for a whole year and they worked out that the livestock sector was fine, it didn't need an order, and so they let it go. So the whole argument of they've got to move cattle, if you move a load of cattle from point A to point B, on the way back, one cow's going to cost you as much as A to B. It's not true. It was a lie. It was set up by the corporate members that wanted to keep the status quo. there was an alternative rates method that worked on a percentage, and also that was 4-part loads. So the minimum, I'm going off memory, the minimum was 20% of the load up. If you had a one, just for instance, a cow, 20 pallets up, 1 pallet back, the minimum that you could charge was 20%, not 100%.
Yeah, but that was for owner drivers. That was not for the big companies.
It was for independent contractors.
Independent contractors, right.
That's right.
Which was affecting the owner drivers. That did not come into effect for the big companies.
It made owner drivers.
I remember that.
It made owner drivers more competitive on the backload rates, which is why Toll and Linfox are against it, because that's where they're making their cream. When you go on a front load rate out of Melbourne,
But you're affecting the smaller owner drivers, the smaller companies, and that's why when I wasn't in Parliament at the time,
I know,
right?
yep.
So it was just raised with me by truckies that they had grave concerns about it.
There was a 40-page notice that wasn't read. There was a 40-page notice that went with the orders that no one read, no one advertised, no one mentioned any of these protections, any of these things. And while I personally didn't agree with the rate, I agreed with the rate calculator.
If you're going to bring something in, Steve, it has to be right across the board for everyone. I don't care whether you're big end or the little end. It has to be the same for everyone. And that was not.
What it did is, it as Robert Bell and Trevor Warner said, it created a award system for contractors in that me as an employee, I'm entitled to the award. If I buy a truck, I'm not entitled to the award. The road safety orders provided me a level of an award. Now, when in the statement of compatibility for the repeal, they never actually proved that it was going to do anything. And even the larger competitors said that the rate that was on offer wasn't enough for them to disengage contractors and engage more employees. And it says that in the statement of, it says that in the Human Rights Report about the repeal and about because the attractiveness of an owner driver out of Melbourne to Brisbane, which is a front load, okay? So you get $2,400 going north out of Melbourne to Brisbane, and you get $900 coming back out of Brisbane to Melbourne. Now, for instance, a major carrier charges their clients $6,000 to go from Melbourne to Brisbane, and they pay their contractor $2,400. Now, when the road safety remuneration order rates calculator came in, it would have made owner drivers more attractive to clients in Melbourne. That would have been cheaper than the large companies because they have a lower operating cost, and it would have made the larger companies more attractive on the backload rates because, of course, they're doing it cheap. And owner drivers, the backload rate would have went up and the front load rate would have stayed the same, because under the orders the rate couldn't drop if you were on a better wicket now than when the rate came in. The rate couldn't go down, it could only go up. So what it did is it made owner drivers more attractive and providing a better service for their clients, and the corporate members saw this as holy crap. We are going to lose all this work to independent contractors because we don't have the operating costs. Now, it's quite interesting for me to try and argue the point of the protections and the goodness of it that it was, because I was actually there and I went to these hearings and all these meetings, and there was only 2 applicants in the whole of Australia, and the first applicant was in the first hearing in November, Mr. Brownsar. So Mr. Brownsar's had his day and I've had my day, and now I've spoken to the entirety of all the applicants. And when I would walk into these hearings and conferences, and it wasn't about the applications, it was about battling these corporate barristers that would walk out of there and walk across to the New South Wales Industrial Relations Commission and fight the good fight for their employer there. So and you can read my 147 pages. I wrote to the president of the tribunal begging her begging her, please, help me. This endless arbitration is killing my friends. So I would go to the meetings and we would leave, and I would go back to driving trucks, and the barristers would jump in their Maseratis and go. Now, I was injured again, hospitalised, smashed again by another truck while I was going there. I went to the tribunal, I told the president, look, I've been injured again, we really need to do something about this. And in the end, we had it for 13 days, and then it got all taken away, voted out by senators that weren't even eligible to sit in the Senate. So there needs to be an inquiry into that. There needs to be an inquiry into how 35 guys can be killed this year so far. It's 575 in 3 years. I mean, I am not afraid of anything, but my children are very concerned. And all of my friends have been reaching out to me during the night with problems, issues. There's nowhere to turn. So this is all we've got. There's no National Truck Drivers Memorial this year. It's been cancelled due to COVID. It was supposed to be the end of this month. The Queensland Lights on the Hill Memorial, it's cancelled. The Truck Drivers Reunion at Alice Springs, it's cancelled. The transport community is broken, and this is all we've got. So I hope that what I've said has encouraged other people to come forward and put their own messages and their own recommendations into this report, because we need this report to be the best it can be and start saving these guys' lives. And I'll just, before I take one more any questions, I'll just want to thank you, Senator Hanson. Before we went on holidays last year, you thanked all the truck drivers in Australia. You stood up and said there's 208,900 truckies in Australia and only 4.3% are female. And you asked why there was so few women. And it's a crap job, and we don't want women out dying in trucks. I don't want to come across a girl screaming of death, burning in the truck. Make it better, and I have got no problem with working with women, but when I say 100 women truck drivers have been killed, it makes no difference, the same as I say 575 male truck drivers killed. But society dictates that we speak up for women, so until this safety crisis is addressed, I honestly can say I do not want any more women coming to work in the truck industry, because they're just going to die. 1 in 500 trucks is involved in a major accident. 1 in every 33 males is a truck driver. And if you can slaughter that many people, and it's 8 years since David Barrett was killed in front of me. 8 years, 7 hours I was at that crash scene before they told me I was good to drive home. That's the standards of the industry, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. So, look, just firstly, Steve, I appreciate your passion, but I just want to clear one thing, mate. I want to encourage as many women into the transport industry as possible.
Absolutely. I work with some great women, but
I know what you mean. I know where your heartfelt
you don't send
feelings
women to the
are.
front line in combat.
I understand that, but I just want to be very clear that I would love to see more women in the transport industry. But at the same token, while we've got truckies with a toilet roll under their arm and a torch, heading off into the bush at night because there is a pathetic lack of facilities in this nation. We have shocking examples of where politicians of all colours can't wait to cut a ribbon on a piece of infrastructure. Sure. But when we ask them for quality truck bays for our truckies, it's like we're from another planet.
Well, there's an infrastructure project right there.
Yeah, okay. You are right. And it's the 2000. We've recognised with the national, help me out, the National Rest Area Strategy, we're about 2000. And let me take this opportunity of the fine work that Rod Hannafy does and others. Now, Rod shouldn't have to be a spear chucker to try and use his own resources to try and find places that aren't truck bays so truckies can pull up. So let's not let governments off, state, federal, all of them, the whole colour.
Only sleep cures fatigue. There is no requirement in the work diary to sleep.
Yeah. So let's come back to this, and I want to give the opportunity for Senator Hanson and Senator McDonald to ask any questions, please. So, Senator McDonald?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about that idea of there's no requirement to sleep.
Yeah.
That's a really important issue. But, you know, people don't want to live under the thumb of legislation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there not any space for people being responsible and going, well, I know I've got to get into my truck and do a long shift. I should actually go to bed rather than go wherever you were suggesting I might have gone, or
The National Heavy Vehicle Work Diary is 38 pages of instructions how to fill it out. The minimum fine is $660 for a 15-minute infringement. It's just under 17,004 points for a 90-minute infringement. Now,
but at some point,
people are happy to work over those
if you want to have a job driving a heavy piece of equipment and being responsible for keeping the country rolling, then isn't there some self-responsibility for, you know, like you know how to get up and have a shower and brush your teeth, I assume, and you also should know to go to bed, shouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. But there is, unfortunately, the criminal market dictates that if you can find a margin, then you go for it, because the industry is actually loopholes tied together with chewing gum.
But you've been forced to have a certain amount of time off.
Yeah.
If you choose to be an idiot and play video games for the whole time and then get in your truck,
Yep.
well, what are we going to have sleep monitors on?
It's about mitigation and risk management, and if you can put a barrier or a safety guard in place to a sharp edge, you do it. And what the National Heavy Vehicle Work Diary has nothing to do with fatigue. What it has to do is with its enforcement. They say, this is the book and you'll fill it out how you want us to fill it out, or you will get a fine. Has nothing to do with fatigue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I understand what you're saying.
People are happy to work under those conditions. $17,000 fines are fine. One dead every week's fine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand this idea of how, you know, because you're right, the more rules you put in place, the more loopholes that arrive.
Well, technology such as electronic work diaries and CNI machines and stuff like that, those are the things that are going to fix these problems with massage and work diaries. Like, people can massage a piece of paper work diary to get it done, and you can get around cameras and you can do all kinds of things.
So do you support the what do you call it? The cameras?
The Guardian CNI machine?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. I've spoken with Michael Carter from CNI Machines, and my personal reservations were my own privacy and also having evidence used against me. But after listening to him and reading the statistics, it's a no-brainer for me.
I've got a company in North Queensland.
No, you'll have to actually explain that one to me. I'll ask for a please
Senator
explain.
McDonald finish, then we'll explain it.
I've got a company in North Queensland that's using this technology, so it measures the when the eyeballs are up.
Yep.
And so if you're looking down, you're on your mobile phone, or you're having a micro sleep.
Yep.
The chair shakes.
Yep.
So it gives you a.
Michael?
No,
Michael Carter from CNI Machines is here, so if you want to talk to him, he can provide you with the
Yeah, well, I've got a
information.
fair understanding. I've watched the cameras in the business.
But
It's reduced
we
the
need this
accidents
data.
and incidents dramatically, and I think it's a really practical way to get around if people are sleeping or not sleeping. Well, it's telling you if they're having micro sleeps or worse,
Having
rather
someone
than
to
filling in another form.
having someone to tap you on the shoulder to ask you if you're okay can prevent a crash. And the warnings that the CNI machine give are that buddy on the shoulder. Are you okay, mate?
Yeah.
If not, pull over. But that leads
Better
us
than another form. Better
Well-
than another bloody, you know, otherwise it'll be like COVID. We'll have policemen knocking on your door. Are you asleep?
That's
Are you at
right.
home?
That's right.
It'll be a terrible business.
But truck drivers have a duty of care for everyone
Yes.
to maintain a level of duty of care for everyone and to be fit for work, be fit for duty.
That's right.
And
But they're not babies. They're not
that's,
children. Are
that's
they?
right. And
They're grown-ups.
As a professional, I can honestly say that when I'm driving along, if I actually am feeling tired and I want to have a sleep, there's nowhere to sleep. And if it is, it's on the fog line or there's no shade. It's all stacked against us. But I mean, here's the thing with these new PBS vehicles and stuff like that, these longer exempted vehicles. None of them got a sleeper berth on them. Now, we're all working under this fatigue law, but under the law, combating fatigue is in the sleeper berth or away from the truck. If it has no sleeper berth, you sleep on the ground.
Can I just, look, I'm sorry, I can't let this go unchallenged. I have to raise this, Senator McDonald, and I understand that we're not all children. I now speak for myself as an ex-long distance truck driver. If I dare said to the Australian public that I never remember, I was awake all the time. I never woke up on the wrong side of the bloody white line, but I'd be lying. If I ever said, oh, I remember every single kilometre I travelled, I've gone from roadhouses between Billabong and Overlander and thought, shit, I don't remember passing Overlander at 47 kilometres. And I understand that we're not all babies, but Christ almighty, there are pressures upon our truckies, whatever they may be, financial. The poor truckie might not have had a good sleep. The heater goes on. Steve, you and I have spoken to that. Our rollovers go up as soon as the cold weather comes. I'm sorry, Senator McDonald. We're not babies.
No,
Christ
that's
almighty,
I'm not suggesting you're babies, and I'm suggesting that I don't want to see truck drivers being treated like babies.
No, I understand.
It's been having another lot of regulation, another form, and another lot of people knocking on your door saying, are you asleep? But there's great technology that helps truckies, that shakes the seat, that stops them going on the other side of the road, because I don't want any more dead either. Don't think you're on your own there.
I know I'm not, because all of the transport celebrities and personalities and people that have contacted me are saying the same thing. I'm not the only one. But the beautiful thing about the safe driving plans was a paper trail that was something the driver could read. It set out his rights and responsibilities, showed him where he could have a sleep, right? And it set out that he couldn't arrive at a destination for a certain time. So it eliminated all these things and made everyone in the chain compliant. Everyone, from the guy that loaded it to the guy that unloaded it, right? And as soon as they repealed the Act and got rid of Road Safety Remuneration Order No. 1, that 7 years of work to get them safe driving plans in was gone. Mandatory drug and alcohol policies of companies is gone. Australia does not have mandatory drug and alcohol policies of transport companies. They did. Why did the Senate throw out those rules? I don't know.
When was that? When did that happen?
That was April 2016. The Road Safety Remuneration Repeal Bill.
I don't know.
13 days after the High Court challenge was lost by the government, ATA, NatRoad, Australian Industry Group.
You'll have to ask somebody who was here. I don't know.
That's the Australian. That's the fact.
What we might do, Senator Hanson, you just wanted clarity of the seeing eye technology, and I think that you should hear that. So just quickly, I know Mick Carter's here, and Mick's going to come in here and see me on Monday if anyone else is around. But I just think briefly, Steve, you have been asked the question, it was raised. Just explain what that technology is.
The
and
Guardian
we'll have to move on.
The Guardian seeing eye machine. It monitors the driver. It captures his eye movements and sends notification to the owner through the internet that the driver's had a moment, whether it's he sneezed too much, looked out the window too much, looking down at his phone or something. It makes the employer aware that the driver's having an issue in real time. And they can contact the driver and say, are you okay, mate? Yeah, I just had a coughing fit or a sneeze or whatever. And they can go on their way. But if they say, are you okay? No, I'm not. Okay, pull over. We can contact the receiving end. We can send out another driver something. There's a communication tool. There's in real time. This technology is going to save drivers. It really is. And I mean, some of them are defunct and, the seat vibrating and shocking electrics and all this kind of stuff. They might do something, but this real-time technology of being able to watch your driver and see what happens and then having the data when they do die. What the hell happened?
That's only if it's in working hours. If the driver is driving through the night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, sorry, that won't go back to the base. No one will be
it's
monitoring
24.
that.
It's monitored 24 hours.
Yeah. So you mean someone has to be at the base watching it constantly all the time?
The Guardian Scene Eye Machine company, I believe it has a 24-hour setup that Mr. Card will be able to explain it further.
Yeah,
but
what we might do, sorry, Steve, what we might
I'm
do.
happy to give him some more time.
Mick, I'm going to ask you, mate, you put a submission in for us, please. No, stay there. I'll get you to put a submission, just what your technology does, if you could address it. Sorry, mate, but email it through to the committee so committee members can have a look, okay? Yeah. Sorry, Steve, but we are going to have to move along, mate.
No worries.
Because we are running an hour behind.
Yeah.
And look,
questions?
your passion for the transport industry and to make it safer is you know, it's
Thank you for
commend
giving me
mate.
the
Okay?
opportunity. Thank you very much.
Not only that, you're the survivor of not one but a couple of rollovers.
Well, there's been 4 times I've been hospitalised by crashes that weren't my fault, where other trucks have smashed into me. And that's unacceptable. I haven't crashed into anyone. I haven't put anyone in hospital, but these are the standards and conditions of the Australian industry that people accept.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Now, we're going to have to, now, this is the tricky bit here. For those that are all listening and those in the room, we're now going to go in camera, which unfortunately means that we'll be off the air for half an hour while we hear the next witness. And unfortunately, only senators and the secretary of staff and the witness are allowed in the room. So I'm sorry, everyone, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you don't